Good morning, my name is Wes Triplett. I'm with the Biotechnology Industry Organization here in Washington, D.C. Our next presenting company is Amrita Therapeutics, and presenting will be Ms. Susan Finston, the CEO.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here and have this opportunity. I did put on the first slide that we are the winner of the Buzz of Bio competition for a promising, emerging biopharmaceutical discovery company. We have a number of priority compounds at the preclinical stage, and I'm very happy to be here to talk to you about them. Amrita Therapeutics is here to look for strategic partners. We have an experienced management team, and what the company is doing in a unique way is we are leveraging the U.S. management and technology transfer with research opportunities in India and the vast research pool in India. So we're trying to work the time zones in our favor and not against us, and we're trying to make faster progress. And so far, I think, given that we only started in 2008, and then by end of 2008, 2009 had soft launch, I think we are on target and on schedule. So what are the protein peptide therapies and delivery systems that I'm talking about? Our priorities right now are going to be colorectal and bladder cancer, both because that's where in the peptide we're getting very interesting data, very good effectiveness data, comparable to gold standard treatments like cisplatin, which I will show you, and also because they provide a market. In the case of bladder cancer, you'll see the market is smaller, but it's mostly not treated by newer therapies. They're branded generics or older products, and so that's a very important opportunity. And of course, the market for colon cancer is also very substantial. This is just a graphic representation to show you we start from a bacteria, and within that we identify a protein with very interesting domains, and different parts of the protein that you can see in the peptide as we go along in this presentation provide different areas for therapeutic benefit. So we refer to it as a multi-disease targeting approach, as opposed to one bullet targeted narrow approach in rational drug design. And we think, frankly, that it's a very good approach. It's going to yield. Okay, so milestones. Just before the financial global collapse, we signed a seed financing agreement in Gujarat with the Gujarat Venture Finance Limited. The government of Gujarat is very interested in providing enabling environment, and they are doing so for us, and we've been very happy to become part of what's growing in oncology biocluster in Gujarat. Then in the next year, we received our first grant under the Biotech Industry Partnership Program from the Department of Biotechnology, and we're working on that. We have now exceeded the first milestones, so we're in the second tranche. As I said, we were ahead of time on that first set of milestones. We were very happy technically to make that progress. We are now processing our own proteins. We have filed 4 patents so far, including for the compounds I'm going to show you here, and for a highly novel delivery system for cancer therapy. And we're expanding our collaboration. So now we have collaborators not only in India, among the apex institutions, National Institute of Immunology, CDFD, which is the Center for DNA and Digital Fingerprinting, and the Instituto Superior Técnico is our latest collaborator in Portugal, and they also had very interesting data relating to some of these things that we're excited about. AT01 is our priority preclinical peptide drug, showing effectiveness against both bladder cancer and colon cancer. In this slide, you can see that the effectiveness is very close to the effectiveness of cisplatin, except that we are expecting much less toxicity, and I'll go into the reasons for that a little bit later. But at the 10,000-foot level, we're relying on what Ananda Chakrabarty, who is here today, I'm happy to say, our co-founder and science mentor, calls the billions of years of evolutionary wisdom of bacteria in the human body. So this slide just shows the comparability in vitro testing. We're starting the in vivo testing now against bladder cancer. This is a similar slide showing it against the colorectal cancer. This is at the same concentration and over the same time period as the cisplatin. This is the data from our Portuguese collaborators. This looks at ATP01. ATP01 is the protein where you take larger numbers of the domains, and so therefore it will have different capabilities from just the peptide. And what we've seen here is actually very exciting because it shows comparable effectiveness to T20, which is the state-of-the-art gold standard for HIV. And this is both in terms of cell-to-cell fusion, in terms of multiplication of the virus or blocking the ability of the virus to multiply in the human body, as well as uptake, which means that it could potentially be used prophylactically, because how does the virus enter the body? Through the lymph system. So here we have two ways in which the protein shows greater effectiveness than the peptide, not only against cancer, which we also could show you, but also with regard to HIV. Okay, now this is what I'm the most excited about, actually, because Ananda Chakrabarty is a genius who surprises me on a regular basis, even after working with him on a variety of issues for now over 10 years. We received some information last October from a practitioner in Alaska. She had a patient with a catheter that had become infected with a biofilm and a slow-growing controlled prostate cancer. So they weren't worried about the prostate cancer. They didn't know why, but it wasn't spreading, it wasn't massing, and there wasn't a problem. They were worried about the biofilm in the catheter. So they treated it aggressively for over a year. Finally, they wiped it out. Within 2 to 3 weeks, he was metastatic. So at that point, she wrote to Ananda, finding him to be the global domain expert, and said essentially, now I think the biofilm was treating the prostate cancer. And it was obviously a very upsetting situation, because at that point, there really was no treatment for the patient. However, Ananda said, we can invent around the problem of the biofilm invading the patient. And that's what this represents. It's a novel delivery system that allows the biofilm to release the proteins or the peptides directly at the tumor site. You could design them differently for different kinds of tumors. Obviously, skin cancer comes to mind. We're talking with one company that's very interested in glioblastoma or other brain stems, places that are difficult to operate, places where the tumors may be very numerous and hard to, or afterwards as an adjunct to radiation if you are doing surgery, or to chemotherapy. So we've only had a small mouse trial, so we have very little in vivo data. We have applied for a lot of grants also, but this is one of the things we're looking for partnership on, because it's a grace and favor company relying on seed and grant funding. What does that mean? That means you can only move as quickly as your grants can move, and we don't have grant funding for this particular program. So we're very excited about it. We're talking to a few companies that are also very excited about it, but we're looking for the right strategic partnership to revolutionize the direct treatment of cancer without poisoning the human body or subjecting it to disfiguring surgery in the case of breast cancer. So this is a very exciting invention that is extremely market disturbing in its potential use. I talked a little bit about Ananda, who is co-founder and senior science advisor. Amrita is actually his third company. 2 probably would have been enough for anyone else. He founded Petrogen in the 80s to commercialize the famous Chakrabarty oil-eating molecule that was the subject of the first patent under Diamond v. Chakrabarty. That company operated successfully until the first Gulf War, and then he founded CDG Therapeutics 6-8 years ago in Chicago with Dr. Dasgupta, and they have just finished their phase 1 clinical trial on a structurally similar molecule from a different bacteria that is patented by UIC and licensed to CDG. So we are operating with different molecules, different bacteria, and different peptides and different intellectual property, but their compounds are structurally similar. And of course, he's the global domain expert on protein and peptide therapies for cancer and HIV and parasitic illness. I'm a veteran biopharma consultant. I have been working in this space, starting with my time in the Foreign Service, working with the Fortune 500s overseas, and then started with pharma in 1999. Really, my entire career has been in emerging markets, particularly a focus on the biotechnology sector in India, where I've been working for many years. And I have a track record for my private clients and for Amrita now of fundraising, business development. One of my big areas of specialization is intellectual property. I led the multinational campaign to change the Indian patent law, and that was at that time that Ananda said, okay, now at some point in the future we have to do something with this patent law. So we've now filed 4 patents in India, which I'll get to in a minute. But I also wanted to show the handsome face of Himanshu Vyas, who is a board director. We're very lucky he's here from Ahmedabad. He's boots on the ground all the time, whereas Ananda and I go back and forth. So in addition to our science team, we have Himanshu Vyas in Ahmedabad, and he's taking some pictures at the back of the room. And the other handsome gentleman is Dr. Prabhakar Solanka, who trained and got his PhD in Germany and is our head of research. So I mentioned the IP before. We are pursuing a G20 plus IP strategy. And that means that we're segmenting the market. If it's a philanthropic market or a non-commercial market, we're not filing patents, but we view the G20 countries plus some additional so that we have in each geographic area, for example, Middle East, we would have Saudi Arabia and Egypt and so on. So we'll have coverage for 95+% of the developed commercial markets. We have filed our provisional patents. We're following up now with PCT process, and more importantly, with the right funding, we could find many, many more. In terms of the competitive environment, I've mentioned CG Therapeutics. The only other potential competitor was IST, which was being encouraged to spin out a company because they had similar data to ours and some additional. We have signed a commercialization agreement giving Amrita 100% right to commercialization, splitting some of the patent rights, a small percentage just on HIV, and allowing them to have a royalty. What that means is that we know how to identify potential competitors and turn them into collaborators. They're happy because they didn't really want to set up a company, but they would have had to, and we're happy because we've got the patent rights. However, we do expect other companies to come in. As I mentioned, CDG now at ASCO just a few weeks ago, they presented highly favorable phase 1 data on P28. People are going to see that these peptide drugs are potentially a new golden age, akin to the early age of antibiotics. Just as antibiotics came out of the soil and the bacteria and then were synthesized, that's what we're doing, but for not just antibiotics, cancer, HIV, etc. So it's only a matter of time. That's why we are the early mover. When we expect others to come in, we will be the domain global experts, and we will be having the added advantage of the bilateral research, what we're doing. So we don't say there won't be competition, and we don't say we won't have to face it. What we do say is that we will be prepared for it. No one else will have either the science domain or the IP expertise and the management experience to be able to compete as well. There's room for all comers, but we will be highly competitive. I didn't want to close without showing our team, our young team of scientists in Gujarat. We're building capacities, we're transferring technology. We've got a great dedicated team. They're the reason why we were able to generate the support for the Buzz of Bio, and I'm very proud of them in everything that they do. And so in conclusion, we have novel products. We're developing them in a highly cost-effective and timely way. And now we have opportunities for strategic partnerships to continue to accelerate and expedite bringing products to the market, because the patient is waiting. And we always keep in mind the patient is waiting. We have an experienced management team that has been successful in related or other ventures, and we would look forward to talking to you if you think this may add potential value to your company's pipeline, or if you have other ideas for a strategic partnership. Thank you very much.